He don't have
He
to
would be
drive
out
somewhere.
too.
He
You
don't
at
have
home
to
with the kids.
So he had him another girl. I went and got me 4 other guys. With
I
him.
see why you wore your little suit too now.
Ain't nothing, no. This is my cousin.
That she was with someone else when she was with you.
He was not the only man that I had slept with.
Ask her who your daddy really is.
I don't believe that you're my father. I don't want you to be my father.
So you're pregnant, but your husband's somewhere else.
This is not your regular case. Mrs. Miller and her daughter, Shanna Garnett, brought Mr. Langston to court today. They are so keen to prove that he's the father of Miss Garnett after 36 years. Both sides stand firm on their case and demand an apology from the other party for being lied to. Regardless, the potential father and daughter have a warm relationship, with Miss Garnett calling him her best friend. Mr. Langston, however, ripped the bandage right off a few months ago and let her know that he is not her real father via text.
Well, this started with a text.
So after almost 2 years of reaching out to my father after visiting him in 2015, I was pleading to get him to respond. He wasn't responding, and he finally responded with this message.
So I think your mother blanked me and you about your birth father being me. She was missing around when you were born.
They got distant for about 2 years, and Mr. Langston had something to say about that, stating the reason why they fell apart.
So why were you estranged for 2 years? What happened?
We live in different states, Your Honor, but we had always been close. I went to visit him in Chicago for a funeral. It was by his side for one of our family members, and everything was great. But when I returned back home, I don't know what happened. He just cut off communication.
Well, I wasn't talking to her like I normally do.
Why?
This is where we see that father and daughter are so beautifully close. Though he did break the news to her so harshly, they really do love one another, it would seem.
Miss Garnett, you grew up as a daddy's girl. You say he's your best friend.
He's always been my dad. I've always known him to be my dad. When I became an adult, around 21 years old, that's when we started really becoming close. 2 years ago, when I was at the funeral with him, he had brought up for the very first time that he thought I may not have been his daughter, which blew my mind. And he went on and on about him and my mother's past.
All of this conviction on the side of Mr. Langston raises the question, how is he so sure that Miss Garnett isn't his? What pushed him to paternity court and got him to hurt his little girl from all these years back? This is where he really spills the tea.
My auntie downstairs let me in. I walked upstairs. I didn't knock on the door. I looked in. I see this guy sitting on the couch with her, like he running this game to get up on something. I knocked on the door. I said, what's going on? Ain't nothing, no, this is my cousin. I said, hey, you can get out of here, cousin. You can leave. But this, I don't believe it.
So you believe that she was with someone else when she was with you?
Seems like there's more going on than was let on. Suspicion is flying around about Mrs. Miller sleeping around, and this is what she has to say about it.
So, Ms. Miller, who is this cousin?
He was not my cousin. He was my sister's husband's cousin, and he was just a family friend as well.
Was he someone you were intimate with?
No, never.
Was he at the house trying to talk to you, see if you have a
He
relationship?
did like me, but there was no way that I wasn't interested in him, and I made that known to him all the time.
Now, things are getting spicy. The spotlight is no longer on the father-daughter relationship and is now shining ever so brightly on the mother. However, Mrs. Miller is not having any of it. She stands her ground, and the courtroom is hot like an oven top.
She immediately told me, because I pressured her, did you do anything with him? She kept saying no. Then she came around. Okay, I'll tell you the truth. Yeah, I gave him some because he kept knocking on the door back. So I finally gave in and gave him some.
Who you getting me mixed up with? I'm
Man,
serious. Who are you getting me mixed up with?
Don't play that.
I'm serious.
You did that. You
I
told
don't
me
know
that.
who you're
I
talking
swear
about.
on my dad.
Mr. Langston is not having any of it either. He backs his story up with more information and paints Mrs. Miller as a completely dishonest person.
And I said, yeah, what are you trying to do? He was trying to get some. I said, yeah, did you give him some? No, I didn't give him none. I said, hey, you know how I am. If you did it, you did it. No, I didn't do it. I said, come on, you might well if you did it. Yeah, I gave him some. He knocking on the door, he kept on bagging and bagging. I finally gave him some.
So wait.
Lord is my witness.
So, Miss Miller, you don't remember this conversation?
Fire on Mrs. Miller doesn't cease, as Mr. Langston claims that he can't remember even getting her pregnant in the first place. This gets a reaction from the court.
Ms. Miller, when you got pregnant, you knew he was the biological father?
I knew he was he was the only one I was sleeping with.
He knew, didn't he?
He the one told me he told me upon conceiving that I was pregnant.
Really?
I don't recall
Well, I
that.
do. I do.
I just don't recall.
I don't know how you can forget that. We talked
I
about it
forget
in
a lot of things.
2001.
Okay.
Of course, it's suspicious that he'd be holding all of this back for so long. If he really thought she wasn't his, why wait 36 years to talk about it?
I paid child support not only 18 years, I paid it 20 years.
But when
They
did you
started
start?
sending me checks back for overpayment, $1,700, $800, $1,000, $500.
So how come you didn't take that $150,000 and pay for a DNA test before I turned 36 years
I'll
old?
tell you,
Miss Garrett has an emotional outburst about how hurt she was by her supposed father breaking the news to her and about how they have so much in common. A grand plot twist was revealed after Miss Garnett posted on Facebook. She put up a picture of herself and Mr. Langston's father, her supposed grandfather, side by side, and the semblance is quite uncanny. Additionally, we get to see the depth of Mr. Langston's trust issues and a whole lot of background to this story. If he spilled the tea before, he definitely dropped the kettle now.
And do you see the resemblance to your father?
be honestly, I do. But there's a thing right here. My father put me out. She was helping me take care of my mama. She's a good person. I ain't gonna take that from her. My father put me out because she said, I don't like how you treating her. So she was there in the house with my father. So
what are you trying to say?
What are you trying
what
to
I'm
say?
trying to say? I don't know.
So what? Mr. Langston and Miss Garrett are supposedly half-siblings now? After a lot of ruckus, the results are revealed, and oh boy, is it a huge shock.
Mr. Langston, you are not the father.
Are not the father?
He is not her biological father.
Now don't look at me. Ask her who your daddy really is. I'm gonna love you. Don't do that. You my baby.
Next up is a court case for the books. Miss Capples, the plaintiff, stands before the court with her 15-year-old son, Jason. Miss Capples calls out Mr. Harris to be the father of her son. This case is so chaotic, even the court had a good laugh from their introduction.
Mr. Harris started talking. We used to go to high school together.
I didn't go to high school with her.
And we were Facebook friends.
That's
Mr. Harris, I made him my man crush Monday. He's a good guy. Hardworking, good father. We messaged back and forth on Facebook for a while. After that, we exchanged numbers. And after that, we started hanging out, getting up, and it just kind of went from there.
She came with her son's birth certificate and was so intent on getting it signed by Mr. Harris in front of his girlfriend, Miss Mayfield. In the middle of all this, it seems like Miss Capples is more interested in rubbing their old fling in the face of Mr. Harris's girlfriend. Miss Mayfield had her thoughts on the blast from the past.
Are you now with Miss Mayfield in a relationship?
That's when I had got with her in a relationship.
She was around 5 months.
She got jealous of what me and...
What is there to be jealous about? I don't care about you guys being together.
Miss Mayfield, Miss Mayfield.
Yes,
So go
ma'am.
Sit her
ahead.
down.
Well, basically, when we started dating, he told me about the situation and was like, I was talking to some girl. I may have a possible baby with her, whatever. So I, as a woman, I just ended up accepting that.
Miss Capples definitely came prepared for a proper throwdown. She presented the court with Jason's window of conception straight from the doctor's office. As expected, it proved she was together with Mr. Harris for 9 months up till a few weeks after Jason was conceived. However, when asked a question, unfortunately for Mr. Harris, he cast a net for himself.
All right. Mr. Harris, do you agree you were intimate with Miss Capples in the month of April?
I'm not sure, I'm not sure.
You don't know.
I don't know.
You don't remember the actual month.
Oh, yeah.
So it could be true or not.
Could be true.
So it could be. All right.
Funny guy.
All right. Thank you so much for that presentation. So, Mr. Harris, if you don't remember,
Oh, what a shocker. That's not the end of it. It gets wilder. Mr. Harris went deeper into the little mess.
When he was,
He don't even know your real name.
You were.
So how was that?
You were.
laid up with
Everybody
somebody, he
thinks
don't
my
even know
name
your
is
real name.
Muffin. What are you
I
talking
didn't-
about?
I didn't-
wait a
know her
minute.
real name.
Wait. Who didn't know whose real name?
I didn't know her real name.
Mr. Harris, you were sleeping with this woman for all these months and you didn't even know her name?
Not her real name.
Well, I saw something about this in my court papers and I really couldn't believe it. Jerome?
You can bet that the judge had something to say about this web of irresponsible behavior.
When we contacted Mr. Harris and told him that Ms. Shatera Caples summoned him for a DNA test, he said, I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I said, Muffin?
That is correct.
I'm pretty sure I told him my name. Would you remember Shantira or would you remember Muffin? Would I go by around town?
If you having sex for that many months with the same person
Wasn't that-
without using any protection, You gotta at least know their name.
Mr. Harris was persistent. He stood his ground, saying that everyone around him on social media kept telling him that Jayceon isn't his son. Imagine being in this man's shoes. In a situation of being the last to find out, just that, this time, it's about your own supposed baby. As it turns out, he's been doubting the whole thing since day one.
Did he get to come to the delivery room?
He didn't have a ride, Your Honor.
Well, I was at work.
He
didn't have a ride?
Have a ride
No,
to the
I was at the
hospital.
work when she delivered the baby. The next morning, I came up there. And
You did?
When I looked at him, he didn't look like me at all.
No, he does
and
not.
I had my doubt. I had been had my doubts, but like I say, everybody around town says that she goes around saying it's another guy's baby.
Would you look at that? Miss Capples is having none of it, though. The argument ensues.
If I'm telling you
Not
that
what I
I'm in
mean,
labor,
well, she called my
2 hours
she
before
did call my
time,
cell phone.
and my friend
I
had my
texted her back. I
cell
didn't know she
phone,
was
and she was
actually
texting
having
him the
the
whole
baby.
time like, she's in labor.
So by the time he never showed, you were angry, and so then you didn't
I wouldn't
say-
care. I wasn't worried about that. Him signing the birth certificate at that point. You want to act like you ain't the daddy? We can.
But
act
you
like
are
that.
here today saying now he has to sign it in front of his
sign
girlfriend.
it.
Oh boy, what a case. In addition to all of this, Miss Mayfield and Miss Capples keep bickering and throwing side comments in court.
I did go
And
through
then he
your
cut
phone.
you off, and then
Yes,
you
I
got
did.
salty.
Cut me
So-
off.
Yeah, that's
Please.
the time y'all stopped talking.
Girl.
I know,
please.
boo. I know the whole story. It's
I'm sure
nothing
you do
new.
because you were there, right? I was already pregnant, and I didn't even know I was pregnant.
That's nasty.
Hold on now. Let's
I don't
That's the
go
only
out.
reason.
What are you
Because you
talking
could easily
about?
give him to him when he did. He don't
He
have
would
to
be
drive
out
somewhere.
too. You
don't
at
have
home
to
with the kids. What you
Right.
talking
no,
about?
he don't.
He already-
All right, one
You
at
at
a
home with the
time.
kids.
One at a time, ladies.
After raining fire on Miss Capples, Miss Mayfield got her own share of the cake from the judge.
There's no nothing. So it's easy to blame Miss Caples, but you also have to look at your man. Because
I
he
wasn't with it. He
participated.
wasn't my man at the time.
It doesn't matter. It's your man now.
I was there. I was
for
actually
you.
there in the
I hope he
beginning,
is a dad.
like buying Pampers and clothes and
hope he
stuff.
is.
But
Hope he's-
like I said, Miss Cables had a problem. She disappeared for months. No calls, no texts.
Okay, so this is another interesting fact.
With the new turn of events, it would seem like Miss Capples was holding out on us. She went on to the meat of the story. She was strongly convinced that Miss Mayfield was stalking her. What a plot twist. Here is what she had to say.
Going surgery, getting ready to have my tubes tied.
That
and
is my
she's-
job.
She worked.
That is my
Did you
job.
say, what's your Honor, as a woman, I would not want to be in a room with a woman that's having my boyfriend's baby.
Okay, so you as a
That's-
patient,
no,
you
that-
have
that's a little too much.
But wait a minute, Miss Caples. She does. You work at the hospital, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then that was where they told you your station or where you were supposed to be.
Yeah.
You were
We have our
assigned to
surgery
that.
today. We got our stuff to do. Yes, ma'am.
Now what? She is a staff at the hospital? Was she attending to Miss Capples on purpose? Oh boy, such questions to have. Regardless of all of this, the results are in, and you wouldn't believe what they are. With all the drama, what happens after the results are in is the most shocking thing ever. Who would have thought? The last thing to expect from this case is an apology from any party, really.
Mr. Harris, you are not the father.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
didn't sleep with no one else.
Miss
I would
Caples.
like to publicly apologize to Mr. Harris. I honestly thought that it was yours. We messed around. We were intimate a lot, and you know we were.
never
It was a
denied it.
very big possibility that it was yours.
If you think you've seen drama in court, I can assure you that you have not seen anything yet. Usually, it takes two parents to biologically make a baby, right? Well, there are at least three parents on the table here. Mrs. Shaw, her daughter Kiona, and LeBron Matthews are in court for completely different things. Mrs. Shaw is here because she hopes Matthews is not Kiona's father. Kiona is here because she hopes Matthews is her father. Matthew is here because, oh well, he just got a new suit.
After the way that things went with
I
him.
see why you wore your little suit too now, Mr. Matthews. I said he's real ready for court, ain't he? Go ahead. What are you about to say, Miss Shaw?
Oh God, is the one that's been consistent.
In these court cases, we hear situations about baby mamas, exes being in court together, but this time it's way different. The relationship between these two people that brought about Kiona is wilder than anything you've thought about, trust me.
I looked at him. I turned around and I looked at his wife. And
Did somebody say wife?
Yeah, they both were married.
So and you had a husband?
yes,
Yes.
Oh, so you came to court with your wife?
Correct.
No wonder you said you never had sex with this woman. Okay. And you had a husband?
yes.
All right. So you two were basically cheating on your spouses with one another.
What a wild turn of events. It absolutely sounds like a plot from a TV show. Like that was not enough. Matthews explains the entire relationship further.
Having fun. We both was young, you know, and when she told me she was pregnant, I was too busy trying to enjoy myself because I wasn't trying to be with no one woman. I already had a wife.
So the point is, when you stood in the courtroom with your wife and you said you never slept with Miss Shaw and you knew you weren't telling the truth, was that because you were scared to lose your wife, or is that because you did not want to be bothered with a child?
A little bit of both.
With so many men in her life growing up, Kiona felt like she never had a father. Regardless, this one thing constantly made her sad and needy of fatherly love growing up. She described it perfectly here.
I remember it being really uncomfortable, honestly. I felt like I was the stepchild. Like, you know, the way that he was with his other kids, he wasn't like that with me. So I wanted him to feel the way he felt about his other kids about me.
I did, but I wasn't really there either. You know, if I wasn't at work, I was ripping and running.
So, Miss Shaw, I want to know, from that point, you decided, I'm not even going to be bothered with...
Speaking of the men in Kiona's life growing up, her mother, Mrs. Shaw, did not hold back. She kept them coming.
Or did you say that because you knew you had a paternity doubt, but you just weren't going to be bothered with him because he lied?
He was not the only man that I had slept with.
Were you honest about that to Miss Thompson, your daughter?
Yes, she's known all her life.
So why did you open the case against Mr. Matthews if you always knew that there was another possibility?
Because when my daughter would go to his house...
It seems like these two go way back in time. Matthews goes on about everything that happened during their relationship and how he reacted to her being pregnant for him. It's a no-brainer they even have a baby in the first place, really.
Because when she first told me that I was the dad, I didn't want to believe it because I was doing my own things. But every time I turned around, I was bringing you fish sandwich when you was pregnant. Every time you turn around, you was like, babe, I'm hungry. And at the time, you had a husband, and here it is. Wait a minute, okay, but you had threw him out.
Yeah.
But then when I came over there, you had me rubbing your stomach and all that good stuff.
I had you rubbing my stomach.
And yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Stop that.
And here it is, talking about bring me a fish sandwich over to the house.
If you think that's interesting, you will not see this coming. How exactly did a married man and a married woman have a baby for one another from an external party? Oh boy.
Oh, you remember that. But wait, I want to understand this. So you're pregnant, but your husband's somewhere else.
Right. Because see, that's how that came
your
about.
lover's coming over to feed you some fish sandwiches.
Because my husband was still in and out at the same time when I got pregnant. But that 6 months, I had threw him out of the house. So he had him another girl. I went and got me 4 other guys. And was doing my thing. And that's what I did. It was a choice, but I was young and...
Oh boy, what a turn of events. She was not just cheating on her husband with one man, but 5 different men. After Kiona was born, it appears that Matthews lost his sweet spirit. Several scenarios point to him not doing up to the bare minimum. Inasmuch as the paternity of the little girl was uncertain, there was so much more to have done better.
The last time you saw Mr. Matthews?
I was a junior in high school, so it's been about 14 years.
Oh my goodness. So, Mr. Matthews, your testimony is true. You've been a pretty bad dad.
Yeah, I was a terrible father.
And that's why you're here, to right your wrongs.
Right, that's correct. I enjoyed my life, you know?
Amen.
You're right. I mean, let's be honest.
Yes.
It's in the context of what your enjoyment was.
Right.
There's just too much drama unraveled in court with this case. However, taking the spotlight away from Matthews and to Mrs. Shaw's now late husband, Mr. Brooks, he announced that Kiona wasn't his, with just one gaze at her when she was born.
My grandmother, went over there and seen the baby because Miss Shaw was living at the time. Rumors fly around. First, my grandmother told my mother, then my mother told me, and I was like, nah, I'm not gonna sit back there and say yes.
What did they say?
She said, well, the baby look like you. I said, no, it don't. I'm not gonna sit back because I didn't want my wife to know. Well, my mother told my wife.
Oh!
What a circus that really must have been. The DNA tests finally came in. Mrs. Shaw seems really averse to the thought of Matthews being the father of her daughter and does not mind showing it. Matthews simply wants to redeem himself as a good father after all these years and seems interested in being a part of Kiona's life. What a shock the results caused.
Mr. Brooks is not her father. What are you feeling in this moment, Miss Shaw?
And I know Mr. Brooks would.
Mr. Matthews, you are not the father. I'm so sorry, Kiona.
I love her.
As the last on the list, we have one of the most emotionally chaotic cases. The father, or the potential father, is rather not happy to be here. Right from the case introduction, McGreer is shaky and almost in tears. Though Amia is supposedly born from a summer affair from 20 years back, he loves her so much and is here to prove that he is indeed her biological father. Amia, on the other hand, is having none of this.
I'm doing this because I love her. And I really want her to know, I really apologize for the times that I wasn't there and couldn't be the dad that I really want to be.
I don't believe that you're my father. I don't want you to be my father.
You don't want him to be your father?
No, he just was never there as a father. He popped in and out of my life, like, over the years.
Were you in and out of her life, sir?
Yes.
Amia has her own share of expressed feelings as she emotionally told the court what life was like without her father completely present in her life. And oh my, what a description.
Tell the court what it was like growing up without the man you were told was your biological father.
Well, you know, there would be times where I would ask for him and he was nowhere to be found. There were times at school where they had father-daughter dances. He was nowhere. Everybody else had their father. Why couldn't I have mine?
Even at 20 years old, those are still memories you carry.
McGreer tried to get words in. He tried to plead his case, but Amia was too broken to listen. It's really interesting that hurt people have all the power to hurt people this way.
So look at them days when I wasn't there. I'm in one state, you in another state.
It doesn't matter. If you really thought that you was my father, you would have made a way to be there. No matter what you went through, you was never there.
Well.
And then you want to come in and out of my life 5 years at a time. You want to come in my life when I'm 19 and try to be a dad. It's not gonna work like that.
Essentially, Amia explained with so much pain that he skipped 6 to 7 years of her life at intervals, and that does not give him the right to suddenly want to show up right now.
Still should have been there. It doesn't matter.
I understand how you feel.
No, you don't.
Oh, I understand how you feel.
No, you don't. Because if you did, you would have made an effort to be there no matter what.
But I did make efforts to be there with you.
But you bounced in and out of my life.
But when I could, I did.
It does not matter. You should have been the father.
At the end of the day,
you should have been a father.
I'm still your dad.
McGreer, still lost for words, kept saying repeatedly that his lifestyle did not permit him to be the father he was meant to be. Away from the father and daughter for a minute, we get to understand the relationship between the mother, Ms. Wade, and the potential father. They had a summer affair, broke up, and she started dating another man about 2 weeks later. Fast forward to the father and daughter's first meeting, Amia was already 2.5 months old. She continues with this tasty ultimatum.
Did you tell Mr. McGreer you were pregnant when you found out?
He wasn't there during the pregnancy. By the time he got back in touch with me and came back down to Greenwood, I had already had Amia. Amia was about 2.5 months old the first time he actually seen her. We tried to work it out then, but things just didn't work out, and I actually gave him an ultimatum. I actually told him, it's either me and your daughter, or it's your lifestyle.
If you thought Amia was done talking about her hurt, oh boy, are you wrong. She recalled memories from her childhood that hurt her the most.
He made so many promises that he didn't keep. When I was 13, promised to get me a whole new wardrobe of clothes for school. I had to go to school with the same clothes I put last year, and that resulted into me being bullied all high school. So as a result, I think that was his fault. There were times where little things like the bookmobile came around. I wanted a book called My Dad for $10, didn't get it.
Oh boy, isn't that the wildest thing? As it would turn out, there are other kids. Wait for it.
Do you hear her when she's speaking, Mr. McGreer?
Yes. Actually, Mia actually got more time than any of my other kids, except for the newborns that I have.
But Ms. Wade, I think she feels a level of envy because you are so focused on raising those children, and she felt like, well, if you could get focused on raising these children, why couldn't you get focused on raising me?
Newborns. It keeps getting wilder. Amia goes on to narrate how there was another father figure in her life since she was about 11 years old, and it seems like he was everything she ever dreamed of.
He would just come around and speak to me, you know, give me a little change, like pocket full of change. He said that he could be my father, and that's when he automatically introduced me to like 6 of his other kids. And after that, I spent more time with them. He's been taking care of me ever since that age. He has been there for my prom days. He spent time with me and his other children. He took us to the zoo. He like spent quality time.
After Miss Wade was asked about this perfect father, she revealed that it was the person that she got into a relationship with after her little summer fling 20 years ago. What an interesting turn of events. As everything was getting wrapped up, McGreer spoke to his potential daughter about their reality.
And if you allow me, there'll be no more broken promises. There'll be no more broken promises. I don't like to make promises that I can't keep. That hurts me even more not to be able to come through when I say that. You know, that takes a lot. You know, I let my own down. And I let myself down even more because where I'm at today is for me. It's for me.
What a beautiful outburst of emotion. Such raw genuinity that can't possibly be faked. To wrap all this up, the results are finally in. You did not see these reactions coming.
Are not the father. I'm so sorry.
But like I said, the broken promises won't be broken. And this doesn't change what I feel for you.
Even though you're not my father, I will allow you to be that.
She let him be her father, huh? Isn't that something? Judge Lake had the perfect words to conclude the case.
I know that was not what you expected to hear. Even though you came here saying you had the information that suggested someone else was your biological father. But Mr. McGreer, I want you to keep loving that arm you got around her, just like that. I can see how much you've grown.